Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is looking at the full moon in Leo, which is occurring on February 5th, 2023 at 16 degrees, 41 minutes of Leo. And the time is 12:29 p.m. Central Standard Time. So right before 12:30 in the afternoon, if you live in the Midwest in the United States. If you live in Europe, it'll be in the evening for you guys. And I don't know about down under. I can't remember what the time difference is. It might be in the early hours of February 6th, some places in the world for sure. Same with India. I think India doesn't have that much of a time difference. Maybe only like 10 hours from me. I'm not sure though. But anyway, either on the 5th or 6th. And so when we have a full moon, the sun is in the same degree in the opposite sign. So the opposite sign of Leo is Aquarius. So there is this energy around Aquarius that is very detached. Leo is the drama queen energy. And I'm not trying to be negative towards the sign of Leo, but it's that dramatic type of attitude towards life. If you know a Leo person, if you are a Leo person, you have that side to you where you're larger than life, or you want life to be larger than just the mundane reality. And if you have plants in the 5th house, I have 3 plants in the 5th house, including the moon. So I might have that myself to some degree. But the point is that there's a playfulness and a creativity, but there can also be this kind of exaggerated response. So when you have a full moon in general, it can heighten the emotions. But when it's in water, for instance, it can be quite weepy or sentimental. Maybe that is weepy, but kind of like very personally affected by it, vulnerable, that kind of thing. When it's in fire energy, it could be very grandiose, very maybe passionate, but by the same token, over the top. And there could be relationship issues that come up, and especially if you are Aquarius or Leo, this is going to be your opposition. And even if your moon is in one of these signs, this can come up too emotionally, that these themes are arising. And with Leo as the full moon sign, it's all about respect. It's all not only coming from another person, but also self-respect. So if you have been in a relationship where someone has been mistreating you, has been calling you out of your name, or otherwise taking you for granted, whatever it is, you may find that dignity within yourself and say no more. Think about the tarot. The Strength card is connected to Leo. And it's one of the themes of the Strength card is confidence, but it's coming from this idea of getting stronger. When somebody feels vulnerable, a lot of times that is when they are in danger of getting involved with the wrong person or staying in a bad relationship because they feel like they can't make it on their own, or they just have these insecurities that keep them in a bad relationship. And of course, it's a vicious cycle because that other person will prey on those vulnerabilities, and it gets even more and more intense in that sense. So you may find like the full moon can bring things to a boil or bring things to a head. And so it's like, I can't take this anymore type of deal in some cases. In some cases, this might be a very creative time. Leo rules the fifth house, and yes, it's about love, but it's also about creativity. It's about children, conceiving children, even. I'm talking about the fifth house. I don't know about this particular full moon, but the idea of the inner child. Is the inner child in a person's life? And you might say, oh, who cares about that? Well, the reason that's important is that if a person doesn't have their inner child, if they lost it when they were growing up, it's very hard for them to really find joy in life. Um, I was doing a personal reading today, and I drew a tarot reading, and I drew both the Sun card and the Strength card. And both of those cards are connected to Leo, and they're both in the major arcana. And um, the Sun card is about joy, but it's also about children and success and just about every good thing you can think of in life. But it is about joy. And you can have success and be joyless and feel this sense of deadness inside. Joy is all about feeling alive. And it can't be manufactured. It can't be contrived, It has to be coming from a genuine place, an authentic place. And that's where the Leo energy comes in, because it's the energy of a child. A child is not fake. This is one of the reasons that when you are around a child, it can be quite a inspirational experience if you have the right mindset in life, because you can feel that sense of dealing with a being who is only coming from this place of authenticity. There's no facade, there's no fake front, and like there is not uncommonly with many people, unfortunately. So that issue may be coming up for you, like you may realize, I don't have this in my life, or you're realizing that you do have it in your life. Maybe it's because somebody has come into your life who is special. Maybe it's that you're just coming into your own. And so let's talk about some of the aspects that are being made at the time of this full moon. But right before I do that, I just want to say, like I always do, that what the name of the moon is according to the North American Native Americans. North American Native Americans. So it's interesting because I live in Illinois, and I know that there is a town called Algonquin, and I knew that there were Indians or Native Americans called Algonquin, but I thought it was just one tribe. And from what they say in almanac.com is that they said that certain Algonquin peoples, so that means that there must have been more than one group or tribe who called it the Groundhog Moon. Now, Groundhog's Day is February 2nd, so that's right before this moon. And it's funny because I don't know what the connection is to Groundhog's Day. Why, this obsession with groundhogs right before, right in February, early February, because Groundhog's Day is February 2nd. And that is, I think that's an American thing. I don't think they do that anywhere else in the world. And for those of you who don't live in America, they take a groundhog and they see if they can see his if he can see his shadow, and then if he can, that means that there are 6 weeks of winter. I guess I'm trying to remember. If he doesn't see his shadow, that means that there's going to be an early spring, something like that. You'd think I would know by this time in my life after living so long, so many decades, but what can I tell you? And it's just interesting how different tribes had different names for each month's full moon. So, this, I guess it was this explorer from the 1760s named Captain Jonathan Carver, visited a tribe in the Dakotas. Um, they say Dakota, but there's North and South Dakota, so I don't know if it was just one territory at that time. And he called it the snow moon, or he knew that they called it, this tribe called it the snow moon, and he said it was because, this was a quote, because more snow commonly falls during this month than any other in the winter. Well, I would beg to differ. I can't speak to the Dakotas, but living in the Midwest, I think the harshest month overall is January. It's also supposed to be the coldest month, and we really lucked out this year. We did not get hardly any snow, and we did get like 10 below zero, but that was back in December. We did have some cold snap, but January has been really great. And I think a lot of people who live in the Midwest would say if you can make it through January, then it's just cake from there. The Cherokee, this is very interesting. They call the February full moon the month of the bony moon and hungry moon because of food shortages or difficulty in obtaining food. So, anyway, I thought that was very interesting. So, let's look at some of the energy around it with the planets. Um, so, there's going to be a trine between the Sun and Mars at this time. Mars is in Gemini and Mars is now direct. So Mars is already, going in a forward movement and trining the sun. This is good for um, productive behaviors that will advance people. Very important because sometimes when I look at these aspects, if there are a lot of hard angles, you might expect that people are going to act in emotion and they're going to act too hastily. And I don't see a lot of negative things associated with this full moon that would be, I think, really making it a difficult full moon in particular. Um, the moon is sextiling Mars, and the sextile is also a friendly angle. And so emotions, that get kind of heightened during the full moon, that can always be a bit tricky, but in this particular case, they are cooperative with a person's behavior. So Mars is pretty well aspected, and it's really up to the individual to stop and think before they act, not just on this date, but in general, because it just can be, it can feel a bit challenging to people who don't have a sense of themselves, because that's when people are vulnerable to their to these kinds of triggers to their emotions, because they're already feeling lost. If you are really connected to yourself, there's no transit that can make things negative for you. This is, sextile is a friendly angle, but the people who are kind of on that negative side already, um, they might be feeling like, I don't know, like some people might feel like they don't have what they want. Maybe they're looking for love and things like this. But regardless, everyone with this sextile can feel as if they are acting in a way that honors their emotions, and at the same time, they're able to make progress in their life because they're doing things um, coming from a good emotional space. One highlight is that the moon is trining Jupiter, which makes it a very positive time. And with the moon being in Leo, Leo is a very positive sign. And that's why it's so nice to seeing uh, and experiencing Jupiter in fire energy, because Jupiter rules Sagittarius, which happens to be my sun sign, and it is a fire sign. So Jupiter is in its own sign when it's in Sag. Um, but it's in Leo right now. And even though Leo isn't, I said Leo, I meant Aries. So it's still in fire energy. And even though um, it has been in Pisces, it's been in other signs, and it is going into Taurus right now at this time, because the moon is in Leo, and the fact that it is forming a trine means that the person feels emotionally expansive, which is really great because this is all about the emotions, this full moon. So that can also play into things. The sun is in conjunction with Saturn, so that can make people a little bit more conservative in their, we could call it behavior, but it's like more like intentions, more like goals, where people are very serious about their own goals. Maybe this is your personal life, whether it is that you're working a job you may not love, a certain job, but it pays the bills. And because you have this conjunction, you have a very serious attitude towards doing what you need to do. This indicates that it may be a situation where the person is less likely to rebel, because it is kind of like a more traditional or conservative influence. And the reason I say this is that if you've ever noticed during a full moon a little bit of whack energy, that's because it can exert that type of influence on people. I have seen it multiple times. But I'm also looking at what time it's supposed to be at. So 12:29 p.m. my time. And in addition to that, it's on a Sunday, means that it's probably not going to have the kind of effect that it would if it was more towards the evening on a Saturday night versus a Sunday, even night. This is actually during the day, but even if it was something at night, if it was on the weekend, like a Saturday night, that person may be more likely to be in a party mode or something, like more rebellious. Venus and Mars are squaring off to one another. Venus is in Pisces and Mars is in Gemini. And I'm not going to comment on that as it pertains to personal relationships. I just think that Venus is very in Pisces, might be very impatient when it forms a square to Mars and feels very frustrated that they can't break through to that other party. Sometimes this can be that male female dynamic. And there might be something that is like a bone of contention that keeps the people sparring as sparring partners rather than romantic partners. And we could say that this adds to the drama of the full moon, but I would say that it really is a lot quieter and also a sign of things to come after we go through the month of March. Then we may see maybe a lot of activity happening. Like right now, there might be a lull in the action. I just finished doing all the February forecasts, and there's not as many transits occurring, major ones that I talk about. And at the same time, there is a little bit of hustle and bustle. It's not just completely quiet. But this could be a different route that happens, and people just being very interested in spiritual matters, especially, but anything to do, maybe something philosophical, who knows? Maybe even something sports related, which that would be difficult for me at least. But I've done so many of these types of forecasts, and usually there's a lot more to talk about when you have the full moon in a sign. It doesn't really matter what sign, there's just aspects that tend to be very challenging. And this full moon seems to be a little bit smoother. So it can lead to friction between the sexes, if you will. Venus, women are from Venus, men are from Mars. But that is nothing new, of course. It's just par for the course, temporarily at least. So, anyway, I feel like this is a really good time. Even with Chiron, there's going to be a trine between the moon and Chiron. So it can be a healing full moon. And yeah, so that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.